Yes, hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to the 2019 Fantasy Awards, the first ever Fantasy Awards hosted here on the Daniel Greene channel. I figured, as passing 100,000 subscribers, I have some form of right to host these. I do want to remind everybody that the opinions stated here are purely a reflection of the Daniels and myself. We just go through general receptions on Goodreads, what most often reviews say from other reviewers we respect, and then of course we take our own opinions into account as well. This is the most prestigious awards the fantasy genre can possibly have, as you can see by my jeans and green screen in my office. And today we will be going through a series of categories that you, the audience, helped me pick and decide to be the most important awards to give out for the fantasy genre. Some are aesthetics based, some are on writing, some are on just how fantastical can your story be. And I'm really excited to get this started. It'll be a yearly tradition here on the channel, but I would like to make one thing clear. This is largely based off my own personal preference. I know I brought up audience votings at certain points, but I decided, like the Academy, this should be something that many people are angry about and has people spewing hatred online in gross, over-the-top reactions. So I want you to let me know in the comments down below, who do you think got snubbed? Who do you think deserves the awards? It's gonna be a fun debate, and I'll maybe make a response video to this. Without any further ado, let's go ahead into the categories that you helped me select. And the first category we will be addressing here tonight, or 8 a.m. on a Saturday when this video is going to be released, is the category for Best Cover I came across in 2019. Best cover for a book I read, not just I saw. There were a lot of covers that I saw that I did not read. I had to have read the book. And the nominees are Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Ames, Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan, Darker Shades of Magic by Victoria Schwab, Seven Blades in Black by Sam Sykes, and Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. And this purely aesthetics-based, absolutely subjective award goes to Brian McClellan for Promise of Blood. Congratulations, Brian. You are the first ever winner of a fantasy award here on the channel. I don't have anything to give you. You're not here. But what I can do is have Tom Hanks applaud you. Check it out. Tom Hanks, everybody. There you go. That, once we get a bit higher budget here, I'll maybe send things to people. But as of right now, Promises of Blood's cover is absolutely astounding. It captures the dark, gritty feel of the story, establishes itself as a flintlock fantasy, and intrigues the reader with its darker tones, stains of blood, and communication of a land in turmoil masterfully. I couldn't think of a better cover to give it to this year, and I'm very happy to say that Promise of Blood is the best cover the channel reviewed in 2019. Next up, we have a Tolkien-inspired award, one that I think we as fantasy fans can very much so get behind. I only have 3 nominees for this category because they were so far above and beyond anything else I read this year, and so I'd like to read off the nominations for the Best Fellowship of 2019. We have The Band from Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Ames. We have The Quartet from the Dark Tower series, specifically The Wolves of CALLA. And we have The Blackguard from The Burning White by Brent Weeks. And the award goes to The Band from Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Ames. Again, Nicholas, I don't have anything to give you here, but here's Shia LaBeouf applauding you. Congratulations. Well done. Very well deserved. Kings of the Wild has been stated by the author to be based off of actual 70s rock bands, and he wrote the dynamics between his group to be these lifelong friends, and it communicates so effectively to the reader. Nicholas Ames absolutely elevated what a fellowship could be and gave a new twist on the idea of an actual band in his story so well. The constant praise this book gets is that it reads like a D&D campaign with great friends running it, and I completely agree. And the relationship dynamics there are mwah, beautiful. We have decided, though, Daniels and myself, to give an honorable and respectful mention to Brent Weeks, though, for his entire concept and execution of the Blackguard throughout the Lightbringer series. One of the best military groups we feel the fantasy genre has ever seen, and if we were not just taking the Burning White into account and the whole Lightbringer series, this would have been possibly a different outcome. So we would like to give a special honorable mention to the Blackguard by Brent Weeks. Next up, we have an actual category that pretty much by default has to take the full series into account, but these are the best Magic systems we came across in 2019. A few of the nominees you've seen before, a few of them are new. Here are the series that we felt had the best Magic systems we came across or experienced in 2019. Lightbringer by Brent Weeks. Book of the Ancestor by Mark Lawrence. The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wong. Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. And the winner is Lightbringer's Drafting. Drafting in the Lightbringer series combines many popular elements from the fantasy genre right now. It is a harder Magic system with drastic, dire consequences for its users. But that is not the only reason it won this award. Brent Weeks' execution of his harder Magic system that has so much utility and diversity to its use was above and beyond anything else we came across this year, and was more exceptionally executed than ever in the Burning White. The creative uses of drafting on display on the page were admirable and something we feel deserves the highest of honors. So Brent Weeks, here is Leonardo DiCaprio clapping for you. And while we are doing awards where we must take the full series into account, we are going to go ahead and talk about the best series completed in 2019. There were several great series that came to a conclusion here on the channel that we as a community experienced and enjoyed. And I would like to read off the nominations for best series completed in 2019 right now. The Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski. Lightbringer by Brent Weeks. The Powder Mage trilogy by Brian McClellan. Book of the Ancestor by Mark Lawrence. And the award for best overall series completed here on the channel with the audience in 2019 goes to Book of the Ancestor by Mark Lawrence. Book of the Ancestor was a complete shock to me and the other Daniels here on the channel. We actually weren't the biggest fan of Mark Lawrence's writing and the level of darkness he would portray when we first came across it, but throughout the year, especially with Book of the Ancestor, Mark Lawrence proved to us that not only is he capable of absolutely masterful work, but in addition to that, he had one of the best conclusions to a series we have ever seen within the fantasy genre. Nona and the nuns that actually guide and help shape her character in this dying world were captivating from the very first sentence, literally, of the series, all the way to the very last. Congratulations, Mark Lawrence. Here's some other celebrity I could find image or gif of them clapping to applaud you. For this next category, I'm proud to say here on the channel, we took great effort to read as many indie and self-published books as we can. We were very excited as a community, all of us, I think, to see many self-published authors accomplish incredible works in the fantasy genre. Whether it was a debut novel or just one that helped elevate them to new heights, here is the best indie and or debut novels of 2019. And the nominees are The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wong. Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. Never Die by Rob J. Hayes. Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Ames. And Shadow of the Conqueror by Shad Brooks. And the winner for Indie/Best First Release of 2019 goes to Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. Rage of Dragons has just had this monumental success since its release. It's probably the best first release from an author I have ever experienced. Evan Winter showed a maturity as a writer that I think many, even decades experienced fantasy authors struggle to obtain. absolutely magnificent story of revenge, of military fantasy, and I'm excited to see fellow booktubers Murphy Napier's review coming down the road, as she just finished it as well and tweeted out her praise. Rage of Dragons, I can actually definitively say, despite the level of hype it is getting, is not overhyped. It's just awesome. Now for this next category, we are going to be taking a look at the darker side of fantasy. We're going to see the best fantasy villains the genre saw in this last year here on the channel. There were many great villains that came forward, and it was hard to narrow these down. And there are a few maybe controversial picks for this category. And the nominees for Best Villain the fantasy genre saw in 2019 here on the channel are The Color Prince from The Burning White, basically everyone from A Little Hatred, J.K. Rowling for allowing The Cursed Child to happen, and the award goes to J.K. Rowling and allowing The Cursed Child to happen and everything else she's done for the legacy of Harry Potter. Wow, this is going to be controversial. This is a big deal right now. Hashtag cancel the fantasy awards. Now I'd like to take this moment here to give a shout out to books I read this year that unfortunately are disqualified from being in any other categories, and those are books that fall into a reread. It's not fair for me to take something I've read multiple times and has had so much influence over to me, and I've just happened to reread this year and include them to compete, so I just felt like that was unfair. But what I would like to do is quickly acknowledge them by having the category of Best Reread of 2019. Whether it's a series I picked up as a kid, don't remember that well, and got into again, a classic that I just felt the need to dive into, or, let's be honest, The Wheel of Time once again, I wanted to pick what was the most influential to me reread of this year, which one was I the most grateful that I did, and I feel like enhanced my ability to be a fantasy fan by increasing my knowledge of either the history of the genre or reminding me of something that was so special growing up. And the nominees for Best Reread are A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin, the first 3 books in the Malazan series by Stephen Erickson, A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin, His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. And the winner is A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. I had dabbled in A Wizard of Earthsea when I was really, really young, but certainly did not have the appreciation I have of it now. Really, for me, rereading, or I guess you can kind of call it a reread, kind of just a fully experiencing A Wizard of Earthsea, made me so appreciate how Le Guin wrote a world that is so accessible, so easy to just dig as deep into as you like, and is at its very core something that is undeniably, truly, and ever so strongly fantasy. Now, next up, we're taking this category very, very seriously, because there are many remarkable contenders for this next category, and that is the best protagonist we came across as a group, as a bunch of fantasy lovers, if we're being honest here, in 2019. And I just want to say before we get into this one, almost every protagonist I'm about to mention deserves an award here. So many of them captivated me and proved to me in multiple ways that I will never grow tired of this fantasy genre. Their ideas, their concepts, and their characterizations so well that I now fully believe that the fantasy genre will eventually attain the respect it deserves, whether it's in or outside of academic circles, because you cannot deny the absolutely brilliant writing that is happening within this genre we all love. So without any further ado, here are the nominees for the best protagonists I read in 2019. Nona Gray from Holy Sister, Geralt of Rivia from Season of Storms, Alex Stern from Ninth House, Rin from The Dragon Republic, Jalan Kendith from Prince of Fools, Gavin Guile from The Burning White, Kip Guile from The Burning White, Harry Dresden from Deadbeat. And the winner for Best Fantasy Protagonist I read in 2019 goes to Nona Gray, Book of the Ancestor. Nona has been one of the most interesting protagonist and original I have come across in my history of reading. This character, from a rock bottom start to the ascension she reaches in Holy Sister, is not only masterfully executed, but the evolution of character is borderline unrivaled I've seen from just about any damn author here. And Mark Lawrence, with this character, has reaffirmed himself as one of my favorite fantasy authors of all time. Congratulations, Mark. Here is a gif of some celebrity clapping. Now, what would the fantasy genre be without its worlds? The world building in the fantasy genre is maybe what it is most recognized for in circles outside of the hardcore fans. People recognize names like Middle-earth and Westeros pretty much across America or even the world. And here we are going to acknowledge the worlds with the best world building we as a community came across here in 2019. And the nominees are Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, The Dragon Republic by Rebecca Kwong, Theft of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan, Seven Blades in Black by Sam Sykes, Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. And the winner for Best World Building experienced in 2019 by the community here goes to Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. Absolutely incredible. Very well done. Very, very well done. Now, we've had some pretty lofty categories here that I'm sure I have angered many of you in. So let's go ahead and tackle a little bit of a lighter category here. I'm not here to make you mad. Let's just have one that's, again, a bit more of an aesthetics choice, shall we? Here we have the nominees for Best Title of 2019. We have Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss, Shadow of the Conqueror by Shad Brooks, and A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. And the winner of Best Title of 2019 goes to The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss. The guy's more of a poet than anything else. Can we acknowledge that? Patrick Rothfuss, you have an amazing way with words, and your titles reflect that as well. The Slow Regard of Silent Things is a poem in itself, and it's a much respected title here. Next up, we have the sidekicks. We might as well call this the Samwise Gamgee category, because what would our main protagonists be without the companions who stand by their sides and elevate them to newer and higher heights? Here, we are recognizing the greatest supporting characters of 2019. And the nominees are Karen Murphy from Deadbeat in The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher, Eddie from Wolves of the CALLA in Dark Tower by Stephen King, Susanna from Wolves of the CALLA from Dark Tower by Stephen King, Archlector Glodka in A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie, and Andros Guile from The Burning White. And the winner for Best Supporting Character of 2019 goes to Archlector Glodka from The Little Hatred. I've made it no secret here on the channel that Glodka, I feel, is one of the greatest fantasy characters I've come across in my entire experience reading, and his demotion of a central protagonist to a supporting character in A Little Hatred was something I had mixed feelings about. But of course, Joe Abercrombie's nearly perfect execution won me over, and it's just incredible to see such a powerful character still have the presence he does, even when we don't get anything from his perspective in this new story from the author. So, well done. Well done, Joe Abercrombie. Glodka will forever haunt my dreams, and your abilities with characters will forever inspire me. For this next category, we have a controversial topic, one that I'm sure will inspire anger, all caps comments, and retaliation. And for this category, we have the nominees for Best Overall Written Fantasy Book. We took into account pacing, the prose, the overall communication, and effective impact of emotional story beats, and just that it factor, if you know what I mean. And for this category, the nominees are A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie, Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Ames, The Burning White by Brent Weeks, Holy Sister by Mark Lawrence, Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. And the winner of overall Best Written Fantasy Story goes to A Little Hatred, Joe Abercrombie. Joe Abercrombie's consistent insistence on having just this magnificent cohesion to his stories that blends together for an absolutely flawless, character-based, compelling story is just continually admirable. Maybe not everyone loves grimdark fantasy, but Lord Grimdark himself has blessed us with another entry, at least this year, of a story that I think will go down in history as one of the greatest from his entire bibliography, and makes me extremely excited for the continuation of his beautiful, dark, twisted world. Now, don't think best written means most fun, or overall just critically most praised, because there are certain other factors outside of writing that really matter when it comes to choosing the greatest fantasy story you come across. And for this next category, I've taken a whole lot into account. This may not be the best written story, but in terms of the context of fantasy, I wanted to take a look at what fantasy book that we as an audience experienced together here on the channel I feel did the most for the fantasy genre. So this is not the best written fantasy book, scratch that word written, this is the best fantasy book of 2019 experienced. I hope that distinction is enough for people to realize what I'm going for here. Essentially, we're looking for what is helping move the needle forward for the fantasy genre, and it's something that I feel that other fantasy fanatics can go to see where the genre in general is heading and how we can keep improving and evolving this ever luscious, ever dripping with creativity, fantastical realm we all love to experience. And the nominees are The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong, The Burning White by Brent Weeks, Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, The Dragon Republic by Rebecca Kwong, and the winner is The Dragon Republic by Rebecca Kwong. The Dragon Republic is checking so many boxes for me right now. Not only objectively as a critic is it impressive to see a second book top its first, certainly not suffering from middle book syndrome whatsoever, but it's also actually achieving many things I want to see happen in fantasy right now. Everything from mixing in new and alternative cultures that we don't all the time see in the Western genre, but also on top of that, using inspiration from real life history to tell a fantastical story. And while not being restrained in any way by being based in reality in such a visceral way, using it as a lens to then focus on the ramifications of war and the results of refugees and the little guy, the people who often are not focused enough in these grand fantastical stories, just was absolutely incredible. I think Rebecca Kwong is achieving something here that is really the next step for fantasy, where we're going to see the genre continue to head, maybe in this darker direction, but also in a direction that is unafraid to go to places that a lot of academia does not respect fantasy enough for doing so well. So that is my pick for the best fantasy book in terms of heading in the direction I believe the fantasy genre needs to go. Again, I have no award for you. I'm just standing here with a green screen in my room. Hope you're having a good day, though. You know, I hope everyone's having a pretty good day. This has been your Fantasy Awards. I hope to keep increasing the quality of things like this here on the channel. I had a lot of fun with this one. Let me know in the comments down below what you agree and disagree with. Like and subscribe if you have not already. All of this is pretty subjective. I did do some research on what other people are saying and thinking about these books, but I largely stand behind what I am believing here. Anyway, guys, have a great one. I'm not going to ever leave this green because I don't want you people doing weird things with me, so I'm just going to keep an image here at all times. I'm not going to give you that ammo. No siree, no how. Have a good one, y'all. Peace. And of course, I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest high tier Patreon, Sydney Allison. Thank you so much for the support. I'm going to be doing green screen shout-outs for the Patreons now. I just feel like it's a little more personal. You get to see me do it. I don't like the disconnected voice. Improving always, constantly improving, getting better. Guess I gotta dance now, because that's what I did last time, so let's go and dance a little bit. Except I didn't dance enough last time, so it ended, like, jarringly quickly, so I gotta make sure. This is as best I can do. This is literally the best dancing I've ever done.